Yo, Caesar here, and welcome back to round 4 of Indian Racing League or IRL. Uh, round 3 is missing, of course, and that has a big reason for it. We started the third round in Azerbaijan, and midway through the qualifying, I disconnected from the session, and for some weird reason, I was unable to join back, even though I had spare invites with me, and no matter what I tried, restarting my system, asking people in the lobby to send me an invite, which way they were not able to, I just couldn't join in. And unfortunately, even after being there for to attend the race, I was not able to join the session, and unfortunately, I scored none or 0 points, of course. So I missed that race. So, but crucially, my teammate You Can Beat Me ended up winning in Baku. So that was a good boost of points, and in fact, we earned more than our constructor rivals in racing points because fortunately, if I can say that, my title rival, one of the title rival, Ashwin Lakhwani, disconnected midway through the race as well while he was leading. So things would have been a lot different if he hadn't disconnected, but it is what it is. It turned out well in a way. The title rivals disconnecting both in the same race, and fortunately my teammate ended up winning, so we earned still more than what Racing Point did. So constructor wise, it was a pretty good news. So coming back to round 4, of course, in Canada, as you can see, it's a wet qualifying starting on wet tires, but the weather did predict that the session will dry out. So my first one, sort of a banker lap, but banker lap wasn't too bad as I finished just 0.012 behind the pole sitter there on those set of tires. So it's very important. That's something that I've learned over my league racing career, that it's very important to have a banker lap, not pushing too hard on it, just getting a time on the time board, leaderboard, what do I call it? But anyways, you get the point. So coming back now to our main and final hot lap of this qualifying, the conditions have dried out considerably, so you can see all the drivers are on the intermediates, and we're still P2. We did had a run on the Indus as well, and we did manage to improve. I think the best is a 19.3 if I can read that time correctly on the small screen that I have. So very crucial to start on pole. The race was predicted to start on dry, but it was the race. I can't even speak. The graphics did show that it will be raining for the middle part of the race. It was very crucial to start this race on pole, because overtaking in Canada is really difficult in the wets, even if you are following a driver on this massive long straight. So very crucial to get this final chicane dead right. Any invalidation here, and pole was out of the window, so taking very cautiously but being as aggressive as I can, and I must say I did take that corner rather well, and I was pretty pleased with it. So what did we do? We did do a 18.4, so that's almost a second quicker than Nova West in P2, and I was pretty stoked with that lap time in the end. So you can see I was on pole by a big margin, but that time is not does not represent a true picture, because I was the last one to cross the line, and the track was at its best when I did that. So I timed my exit from the pits much better than what everyone else managed. So yeah, that helped me get that pole. So you can see the graphics. The rain is scheduled to come around lap 2, lap 3, and it does get heavier in the middle and then ending back on the dry. So it was important for us to get a good launch off the line and protect our lead going into turn 1 and turn 2. Pretty easy to lose the lead going into the turn 1 of Canada, because the guy in P2 can get a better launch and hold his line on the outside, but we get a decent launch as the lights go green, managing to stay on the lead, being a bit late defending the outside line, which turns into inside for turn 2, and we manage to hold on to our lead. And you can see we've already gained 7/10 of the guy in P2. PSI Legend, starting in P3, managed to jump his teammate Arjun Arunshai in P2, and fortunately for us, there is no change in positions for the Ferrari, and we managed to hold on to our lead. But you can see the rain has started to fall while we were forming back on the grid from our formation laps, so it was crucial for us to keep a check on the weather report when the rain will fall, because let's be honest, the dry are absolute rubbish in these conditions. So not only was it crucial for us to stay in the lead, but very important to know when was the perfect time to come into the pits, change into those intermediate conditions, because the gap is so close. A lap delayed for those compound, and we could end up losing a lot of position. So it was crucial for us to gain as much time as we possibly could. You can see we're not using a lot of ERS, but we are still managing to stay in the lead and maintain that gap. The gap hasn't increased exponentially, nor has it decreased. So moving forward by a lap, you can see how much rain has increased. So the car wasn't behaving at its absolute best, of course, but coming through this chicane, Jeff asked us to come into the pits, and this was a pretty good time to come in, because we were a sector behind the pit stops, and I think if Jeff had come anywhere close to as soon as we had crossed the pit entry, that would have been quite catastrophic, I guess. But perfect timing for us. As we come into the pits, we get a full call safety car here, and I was just looking at the minimap here, trying to figure out who had crashed out, and upon asking my teammate, said that it's SFR Sonic Hawk, who happens to be a Racing Point driver. So one half of our constructor drivers had crashed out and caused a safety car. So this was a brilliant news, constructor point wise, that we had one less car to fight with on the track. So so far looks pretty good for us. We had, I believe, a 20-point lead coming into this race over the Racing Point. So we needed to score pretty good points if we needed to increase our gap to the car in pink. But a couple of laps later, the safety car has come in, and it was very important, or can I say crucial, to get a good launch. You can see VFix has jumped Arjun Arunshah for P3, and Nova West, who joined the session late. He qualified P2, but he was put at the back of the field, because that's how the game works. If you join the session midway through the quali, sometimes the game puts you at the back of the field, even if you've set a time. So that is what happened to him. It was unfortunate from his point of view, but it is what it is. There's nothing that can be done. But coming back to this race, safety car launch was pretty decent. You can see we managed to gain almost a second and a half on this. So very important to get a good launch of that safety car closure, should I say, or whenever the safety car ends. It's important to, on tracks, especially on tracks like Canada or Spa, where you have these massive long straights just before the pit entry, and the cars are right behind you. So it's very easy to get caught out by the car behind, who can use a slipstream and overtake you going into turn 1. But fortunately for us, nothing of that sort happened. So moving forward few laps, you can see PSI Legends, who was in P2, has decided to pit in, and you can see visually how much the rain has picked up. So it was definitely time for wet weather conditions, and you can see he's going on the wets. And on the very next lap, we decided to stay out for one more lap, because the rain was scheduled to lighten up after a few laps. But you can see Arjun Arunshah and the other Mercedes going into the pits. So I was here at this moment thinking that should I have gone in. Vivix, fortunately, who was right behind us, I guess, before Arjun pitted, he decided to stay out along with me on these set of intermediate tires. But
70%.
at this point, we were just thinking that should we just take the bait and do what the Mercedes boys are doing, or should we just stay out? And as we crossed the final chicane, the safety car came out at the worst possible time. And at this point, I was thinking that if this would have come out a second or two earlier, I would have just gone into the pits. And you can see this preferred strategy was to go on the wets. And here I just instructed my teammate to just go into the pits and change to the wets, because the weather graphics at the start of the race is not too reliable on this game. It might say that it's raining, but in reality it does not, or it works the other way as well. So I told my teammate to get in. You can see the VFix did go into the pits at the safety car, but fortunately for some reason he came out on the intermediate tires as well. I don't know if that was on purpose or a mistake on his part, but whatever it was, he was on the same compound as we are, but on a fresher set. So important for us to stay in the lead and hold off the attack from VFix, who is of course a quick driver. So far we managed to get a good launch, getting a lead of a second at the restart. So that was very important. And here it was very important to note that I was keeping an eye out on the gap between myself and PSI Legends and Arun Shah, because it was very crucial to understand that, and this would decide that if I really needed to pit in or not. You can see I'm using a little bit of ERS as well. I haven't used much throughout the race, even though of course there were a couple of safety cars, but even without them, you could notice that my ERS was pretty solid. 17 laps or midway through the race. So very crucial phase of the race. Should I pit, should I not? So this was the thought process in the entirety of this race. You can see we are checking with Jeff after every few laps of the weather. We wanted to know that is it going to rain for another 10 laps in these conditions, or is it going to dry out pretty soon. You can see we decided to stay out try to stay away from the wet weather tires. And my teammate is in. So
where were you before you pitted?
At this point, I remember. I'm sorry, this is not a live stream, so I need to recall certain things. I remember telling my teammates to get in the pits and go on the inters, because Jeff on his screen told him to change as the track was drying out. So we decided that it's best to stay on the inters. You can see my tire weight's over 60%, and I was just thinking that track is drying out, and I was pleading to Jeff to just tell me to come into the pits. And as soon as I was hoping that, Jeff just told me to come in and change for dry weather tires. So this was perfect timing for myself, because I was in the lead throughout this race so far for 21 or 22 laps, almost 22 laps of this race. We've held the lead in the entirety of this. We started on pole, held on to P1, and we are the only one of the front runners to have made just one pit stop. This is our second pit stop. I believe this is VFix's second, and as expected, everyone will be on the medium compound tires coming out of the pits. Mediums can easily go all the way to the end if you take out a couple of laps of those safety cars. You can see we didn't actually miss the braking point, but the track conditions are quite damp, and the car failed to stop on time. But here you can see the gap that we had over VFix when he came out of the pits. It was around 2 seconds, and we didn't use our ERS at all. And you can see VFix has managed to close down the gap by over a second as a result of that. So he was trying to stay within our DRS range. Of course, he was fighting for the win, even though we don't have a penalty yet. But I think we will end up getting one. And yeah, here we are, 3 seconds right next to our name. So the gap is 9/10. Yeah, we go purple as track conditions are improving. But this is the
Again,
lap
1.5
where
seconds
we will
just in
push,
final
and
sector.
we had to get out of that DRS range. So 9 tenths was the gap, and we were trying to push, and you'll see we use a lot of ERS on this lap. It was crucial for us as the track has tried out, the DRS is active, so it's very easy to overtake if you manage to stay behind the car in front and to overtake the car on the back straight and the next DRS straight as well, where you get that boost of DRS as well if you manage to make the overtake, because this is just one DRS detection zone. So crucial for us. We had to push, and you can see we have 1.3 seconds, so we are importantly out of that DRS zone. So we already gained 4 tenths over VFix on this lap just by pushing and using our ERS that much more. So I believe this will be our fastest lap of the session so far, taking this final chicane really aggressive. You can see how much we've used or abused that track limit, always on the edge, and we do a 110.8, and the gap is gap is 2 seconds. So we've pulled up a gap of over a second by pushing that much harder. So coming back to the final laps, final stages of the race, you see VFix has pitted onto the soft, and he's done a 110.7, so that's 1/10 quicker, but on the set of soft compound tires. So we decided that we had enough gap at the back to go into the pits and come back out safely into the lead, as VFix has managed to overtake Nova after pitting for the set of softs. So now this will be our fastest lap of this race, the lap 32, going into the pits for a set of softs and trying to take that fastest lap away from VFix in order to have that rare grand slam where we qualified on pole. We've led every single lap. You haven't seen a car in front throughout the entirety of this race, but it was a pretty interesting race nevertheless. We were in constant communication with our teammate, of course, who was helping me as well, letting me know where my rivals were on the track. But up at the front, once we knew that we had enough gap and we can afford to have that extra pit stop, we didn't have to, but we needed a grand slam. I mean, with such a performance during the day, we needed that extra point, boost of extra point as well. So you can see we've gone purple in the first 2 sectors, so ensuring that there's no penalty or warning in this final chicane. We managed to take this chicane quite well through the entirety of this race. Fortunately, this is one of my weak points, and you can see we do a 109.4, which I believe is over a second quicker than what VFix had managed. So we started on pole, led every single lap, and we got the purple lap as well. So we were very well on our way for that rare grand slams. So I was pretty happy with how the race panned out for us, and not so well for my teammate who finished P1 last race. I think he was in P11, P12 at this point. So but it's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, we did manage to outscore our constructor rivals. Racing Point, Ashwin Lakhwani is in P for the only one in the entire grid to not get a penalty. But fortunately for us, his teammate crashed early in this race, so we were gonna end up earning more than Racing Point anyway. So there's always a silver lining. So, and of course, you're allowed to have 1 or 2 bad races through the season. You cannot have a perfect race every time you go out on track. So overall, pretty happy with this race. Started on pole, had the purple lap, and we crossed the finish line in P1 to close out what has been a perfect weekend for myself and a pretty good weekend for the team in red, as we celebrate that with that cringe-worthy dance. So we can see P1 and P12 for the Ferrari boys, and our constructor rival Ashwin finishing off on the podium in P3. So this has been round 4 of Indian Racing League. Next week we believe we are in Mexico, and that should be an interesting race as well. Very good track to get
Awesome. So
a
again,
lot
just
of
one
penalties as well.
motivation.
So we should be mindful of that.
A
So
lot more.
this has been Caesar, bringing you all the action
with the colorful
from
tire
round four in
on the
Canada.
race director.
And until next week, it's goodbye.